Hello, house churches, and welcome to the video for Side Week. We're coming off of Easter Sunday, where we looked at the Road to Emmaus text in Luke 24. In this text, there's two people on the road. It actually could be Cleopas and his wife, or it could be two men, and they are dealing with the broken dreams and the broken hopes of Jesus' death, and they're going to Emmaus. On the road, Jesus meets them. They don't recognize him right away, and then they do. And of course, this encounter with the resurrected Jesus brings them joy and hope. As I studied this text, my question was, how did they move from a place of recognizing him when they didn't recognize him before? Because if we can figure that out, then we can learn maybe to recognize the resurrected Christ as well. In the text, we saw what became my light bulb moment was they recognize him, at least in part, and I think it's a really large part, when they let him speak for himself. The first part of our text is them saying, this is what a Messiah is supposed to do, and when he didn't do it, our hopes were dashed. And Jesus says, what if a Messiah did this? What if it looked like this? What if you're understanding it wrong? And in that sense, Jesus finally gets to speak for himself. I said on Sunday, maybe the reason they didn't recognize him on the road to Emmaus is they've never actually seen him. They've never seen him as he really is, because they've only projected their expectations on him of what a Messiah should be. When those hopes are dashed, they're actually able to see who he is. And so my light bulb moment came when I realized that I need to start saying to Jesus, not the projecting words of, hey, Jesus, why don't you this? Or maybe you ought to that. But instead, I just give up my expectations and I come without giving him my specific hopes, and I just simply say, show me who you are. And then he begins to speak and I can see him. My conviction came at the end of the text and the end of the sermon as well. This idea that the face of God is locked in a smile. Now, it's a weird phrase because when you're locked in a smile, you think of it as kind of a grimace. But think perpetual joy, always shining on you. The empty tomb is a seal of the face of God being in a permanent smile. We talked a bit about how some people see it like, well, your church emphasizes this part of God and this church emphasizes this part, and I kind of like it like a little more gritty and a little more dangerous and a little more kind of psychologically. It's just good for me to know that God kind of has some anger there. But your church is different. You just talk about the love, and that's cool too. And I pushed back on that, saying one of those is just not biblical. One of those doesn't actually take into account the fullness of the resurrection, as the early church understood it, that on the face of Jesus, when you see it, is a smile. He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for all of us, will he not also, along with Jesus, graciously give us all things? This is the language of an eternal sunrise, S-O-N or S-U-N, the light of God shining on your face, his beaming smile, and that is a sun that will never set. That is something that our church will die on. That's a hill that we'll die on. And I said on Sunday, we actually don't have to. That's the hill that Jesus already died on, once and for all, establishing for us that Jesus is for us. My conviction is that that same smile that comes from God onto humanity needs to be the same smile that I project to people about who he is, and that PAC does as well. And you do, so keep it up. Let's keep being that church that when people want to see the smile of God, he brings them here. Grace and peace, everybody.